I'm Gina Zuckerberg, and I am the Director of Family Programs at myFace. I was born with a cleft lip, hearing loss in both ears, and no vision in my left eye. I had 6 surgeries growing up, years of braces, and speech therapy when I was a child. I was teased in school, kids would say mean things, they would stare. I would sometimes sit alone in the lunchroom and on the school bus, and those moments have stayed with me even today. When I was in my early 20s, I joined a support group for teens and adults called the Interfaces, and it was the first time pretty much where I met others who had facial differences like me. And we performed, and we wrote and performed a theater production called Let's Face the Music, where we shared our stories through skits, music, and what we call mirror monologues, looking in the mirror, what do you see? And that experience really big part of that group, and that experience doing theater really changed my life, and it was really the first time I began to share my own story. Fast forward to about 12 years ago, I joined myFace as the Director of Family Programs because I saw the power of that group when I was in my early 20s, but also I wanted no child to go through what I did growing up. And so we started to create support groups, which are now virtual for kids, adolescents, adults, parents. We have webinars and podcasts, the myFace, My Story podcast, which I host, and Tiny Faces, where we deliver backpacks for newborns through 50 different hospitals. And the program that I am most proud of is Wonder Project, where we go into schools speaking to students about facial differences and all differences, choosing kindness and being an upstander, not a bystander. Since starting the program, we've reached about 100,000 students, and I should also say that it is based on the young adult novel Wonder, which is by R.J. Palacio, which if you've not read, I highly recommend. So we have also done lots of community engagement events to engage the community, both virtual and in person. And I always say there's power in the shared story and knowing you're not alone. And so through all these programs, I have witnessed, even for myself, the power of knowing you're not alone, that there's somebody else out there who gets it. So if you are new to myFace or have known about myFace, but maybe don't know about all the incredible stuff we are now doing under the leadership of our Executive Director, Bill Franco, I highly recommend you check out our website, myface.org, and talk to staff and others that are here. It's really nice to see some of the families here as well. So I am personally very excited about our Fireside Chat, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Gina. Thank you. Thank you, Dina. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Really happy you're here. Our third Fireside Chat. And I have to tell you, I am super excited about this one. I've known of Allie for years. I saw Jim and Allie together on Long Beach Island when I was a little younger. And I would see this man pick up this beautiful blonde girl and walk to the beach into the ocean with her. And I would look at my mom and say, wow, that guy's amazing. He's incredible. And now we know why he was carrying Allie. But the truth is, he is amazing. He has exemplified, in my opinion, who and what a dad is. He's now a friend. And I couldn't be luckier to now have Jim in my circle of friends. And with that, I get Allie. And I gotta tell you, I've spent some time talking to Allie, mostly by text in the last 10 days. And boy, what a superpower. What an amazing human being. from inside, she's got more to give than someone I have met in a very, very long time. Naomi, I love you, but I got to tell you. So we'll have some questions. And the way I like to lead these, if you've been here before, is I will stop and see if anybody else has questions, because it shouldn't just be my questions that we developed at myFace. It should be all of your questions. So I would encourage you to think as we speak about some of the things that maybe you might want to ask Allie or Jim, or Allie and Jim, as we continue on the conversation. So thank you all. Allie and Jim, thank you. It's great to have you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read, if you don't mind, some of the questions that were presented to me to present to you.
Cool.
And it starts with, thank you both for being here. Your story is one of courage, creativity, and connection. To start us off, can you share a bit about what brought you to say yes to this fireside chat with the myFace community?
Shall I start?
I think you should be the starter.
All right. Well, hello, good afternoon. My name's Allie Stroker, and I'm a singer, an actress, an advocate, a wife, and a mommy. And I have been in a chair since I was 2 years old. I was injured in a car accident with my mom and my brother in 1989. And I have a spinal cord injury. For any of you who know about the spine, my injury level is C7T2 incomplete. So I'm paralyzed from the chest down. And this obviously changed my entire family's life. My brother had a traumatic brain injury, and my mom is okay, but lives with so much of the emotional sort of disability of that event. And this is a part of my story, but what's sort of unique about it is that I don't remember any of this. My first memories were of being in a chair at the mall, like a good Jersey girl. Like my mom and I would go to the mall, and my dad, we would all go to the mall because the mall is super accessible. And it made me feel so free. It was like kind of like a playground. And I remember beginning to clock that people were staring at me. And at that point in my life, I was in a world, in a bubble where, like, I was totally normal. My chair was not something that people were pointing out. And so at the mall, people would stare. And one day I got the courage to ask my mom, Mommy, why are people staring at me? And she said, Allie, they're staring at you because they've never seen anybody so beautiful in a wheelchair. And that's a really good mom response. But as I got older and, began to really be in the world, I realized that people in the world are so struck by differences. And they say wild things. And they react and respond in ways that I couldn't make up if I tried. And I know I am right now preaching to the choir that so many people in here experience and have that life experience in the world of being different and coming into a room and feeling, I call it 1,000 eyes. Even if you're not looking at something, you can feel it. And thank God, when I was 7 years old, I was introduced to musical theater. And theater gave me the courage and the bravery to take on my life. Because the first time I got on stage, I was cast in a backyard production of Annie
At LBI.
at Long Beach Island, directed by our 12-year-old neighbor. And I was cast as Annie the lead, and our dog was Sandy, and my dad was Miss Hannigan. Truly, with script in hand. And when I wheeled out on stage and I sang for the first time, it felt like the whole world stopped because everyone was staring at me. And for the first time, I was sure they weren't staring at me because of my chair. They were staring at me because I was the star. and I was hooked. I found a way to flip this thing that felt so painful into something that felt so empowering. And so I went home that school year, and I told my parents I wanted to be on Broadway. This was 7-year-old Allie. And I started to take voice lessons. And for me, my voice is where I am the most free because there aren't any limitations. Being paralyzed, being in a wheelchair, you feel your physical limitations all the time. Even as simple as like getting up in the morning and getting out of bed. Like that takes physical strength. It's a challenge every day. But when I would sing, it was like there wasn't a challenge. There weren't stairs. There weren't wood chips. There wasn't sand. It was just like I could express myself freely. And I needed a place to express myself. It was essential. And for so many of us, like we carry a lot. And I had a lot to get off my chest. And singing is where I felt like safest to do that. So I started to sing and do musical theater, and this changed my entire life. After high school, I told my parents I wanted to.
Whoa. Wait. So you roll out on the stage.
Yes.
And of course, ironically, the brother of the director is Jack Antonoff, who's written all the Taylor Swift things. That's the family. The whole thing is just serendipitous. And you roll out, and all of a sudden, you actually do one thing, which changes everything. You actually sing what song? Give us just a taste.
Tomorrow or maybe?
Tomorrow, whatever.
This is what he does. I don't know if anybody here has parents who are like, okay, now you'll sing. That's what he does. So the song that I sang, the first song of the show is Maybe. And I remember saying, it's maybe far away or maybe real nearby. He may be pouring her coffee. She may be straightening his tie. Maybe in a house all hidden by a hill. She's sitting playing piano. He's sitting paying a bill. I'll sing another song at the end of that. But I wanted to do this all the time. I wanted to be a professional, and I wanted to perform at the highest level. And that definitely comes from my dad. Because every day he would tell me, you are the greatest. You are a superstar. And being disabled as a child, like you're super vulnerable. You are definitely looking to your parents, the people you trust most, to guide you. And I started to believe him. I was like, oh, maybe I could be a superstar. Maybe I could be the greatest. And so that piece of the motivation of my dad as a coach and a teacher, it worked. Like I trusted him, I believed him. So when I went into audition rooms and sang, I could feel that people were nervous. They didn't know what to do with me, but I knew what I did. And I also watched from my mom a form of advocacy that I think really worked. And that was a lot of times when you are needing accommodations, when you are needing help, when you are needing, teachers and superintendents to really step outside of the box and provide for your kid, it's not always gonna happen the first time you ask. In fact, a lot of times people don't trust you yet. So why should we go out of our way? And so my mom and dad were super, super persistent and also found and at least this is what I took away from, and you'll speak on it in a minute, but that you had to make friends. You're more likely to do something for a friend than you are maybe for somebody you don't know. So they were nice about it. They wanted to help them. Like, they were like, hey, we need this for our kids. My brother, with his traumatic brain injury, needed special accommodations. So I've taken that into my own experience of making friends. And I believe that was part of my strategy to get where I have gotten. And we'll get there, but I'm going to pass. I ended up here because of him in this room. Because when Dad says, this is really worth your time, again, I trust him. Dad, I'll pass you the phone.
So there's something, many things resonated with me, Allie, but you said something about music was your voice.
Yeah.
And Logan, one of our ambassadors and also one of our proud bus shelter ad profiles, said that exact thing about his piano and his music. Music, and I don't remember, Leah, what exactly was that quote?
Music doesn't see a disability, a difference, or diagnosis. So when he's playing the piano, that's the only time that people actually see him. Not his difference, not his.
Yeah, I love that.
It's
I
amazing.
feel that way too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Well, that's hard to follow, obviously. And, my first, experience with adversity was my dad died when I was 9. He was 48 years old, and all of a sudden I felt very different. Different from every other kid on the block, different from every kid in the school. It seemed like in 1961, there were no single parents. And my mom, was the one that, sat there numb and in a state of grief for, I guess, at least a month before, she came down one day and she put a sign on the refrigerator for my brother and myself. And the sign was just 3 letters. And the letters were E, R, and O. And the sign said E plus R equal O. And what she explained to us is that E is the event. Daddy's death is the event. Whatever happens today is the event. Waking up on Friday, that's an event. Being here in this setting, that's an event. And she basically told us a lot of those events are out of our control, and we can't control them. And she basically said, you can reframe and do anything you want with that event, because that's the R. And as the great Viktor Frankl has said, there's actually a space between the thing that happens, we call it the stimulus, and your response. And in that space holds your growth and freedom. And what she was telling us is we owned our response. And, that day, changed my life. And then, of course, ironically, and in a serendipitous way, Allie and Jake were injured in a car accident. Allie was paralyzed, Jake near death, traumatic head injury. And all of a sudden there was an event, and we had already, it's almost like we had already been through this before. And this is all conjecture. I have no research. I think everything happens for a reason. I think you're placed here on this earth with challenges, with obstacles that are here for you, not happening to you. And I'm a coach. I spend my life coaching against opponents, playing in games. Like, oh boy, Mariano Rivera, that's tough to hit against him. Or wow, look at that. This is the biggest game there is, called life. And your opponent, what I found, is not out there. It's all right here, right? It's the whole thing. And in sports, like the athlete that is regarded as the top of their tier is the athlete who can handle adverse situations the best. Ali and I do a lot of speaking, and we use the term amor fati. It's a Latin term, which was really popularized early by the Stoics, Epictetus, and then Friedrich Nietzsche gave it a little bit more understandable when he said, amor fati is the love of fate. The love of fate. The love of fate. Now, we say there's 3 belts. White belt is when something happens to you and you curse it, you say, why me? And you live in that unfair state of anger. And that's normal, right? I mean, you gotta be a white belt first. Then there are people who reach the red belt category. And being a red belt means that you accept what's happened. You no longer resist it, you no longer fight it, you simply accept it and release all that negativity and resist. I accept it. But then there are you, the black belts. Black belts embrace adversity. It's almost as if it's going to happen for me because I'm that strong, I have that much courage. And as a player, and Ali's that, and the coach, and a lot of you are the coaches, right? I mean, there is no parent that can feel a level of pride and admiration at any level as high as we can to see our children with challenges move forward with fortitude, strength, creativity, patience, and just, unstoppable conviction to be their best. I mean, we are the luckiest parents in the world. Now that's a mindset switch, right? Instead of being white belt, not fair. Instead of being a red belt going, what can I do? No. That's not the way this has all happened. So, for us, we get children who have challenges to deal with. And we get to watch them do the incredible things they're doing. So this took time. We, like normal people and human beings, cursed the universe and threw rocks through windows and said, why us? And then all of a sudden we realized, why not us? And we are probably, maybe, if this is where our kids are, we've risen up to about here. Last part. So Maslow's needs, right? Like the highest level of living would be actualization. But right before Maslow died, he changed it. He said, no, I got this wrong. And he said, there's another level. It's called transcendence. That's when you give this state of being your best self and give it away to others. What a gift to be able to give it to our children. So it's kind of a long-winded answer.
How'd you end up here?
Jim, I want to follow up with that. Many parents in the myFace community want to raise their kids to be confident and proud of who they are.
Yeah.
What were some of the small things you did every day that made a big difference for Ali? Yeah. And then Ali, in turn, are there some things that you now do for your son?
Great.
So Jim, take us through.
So, be quick with this one, so I'm going to pass the ball back. So, it's a great book, Don't Shoot the Dog. It's a behavioral book, and it's written by the world's greatest animal trainer. I'm missing her name, but it's all behaviors that are rewarded or behaviors that are repeated, right? I mean, that's the way you train animals. Like, you find them doing something good, right? The dog sits, you give it a bone. And then ironically, the dog sits, you give it a bone, and then all of a sudden, like, the dog is sitting, going, where's the bone, right? So, when you have children or people you love, the thing that you want to do is spend your time finding small, good little things and pointing those out and articulating how great it is. I mean, we're reeling. Jake's walking, with his helmet on, with his one arm, walking down the road, and Allie's pushing in her chair. She's 2, and Allie's 5, and Jake's, and there's a bench up there. Right? There's a bench like up about 14 yards, right? Come on, we can get to that bench. Yes! And of course, we got there was always a bite of the Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. But then we put it back into the plate. And then there was another one. And then, Allie goes from 1 dip in her chair to 2 dips. And yes! Okay. So it's a lot of, coaching, and I still believe it's the key. Like our job was to be that inspirational person, that jumped up and down on the little things that other non-prospective parents don't get a chance to do, right? Yeah, so.
Yeah, I mean, I do a lot of that just by habit because that's what I grew up with. But the other thing that I love that my parents did with us is that they really took us out into the world and we talked to everyone and we made friends. And I do that now with Jesse. So we go into town and, there's like 4 or 5 shops and we go in every single one. We know everyone's name and we go in and we say hi and we're building community. And he, as a 2.5-year-old, is building his community. So when he's a teenager and he comes into town, he's going to know all those people. To me, you cannot do this alone. You have to have community. And I think it can start so young. And those relationships, yes, you want to have them, but I think for your kids to learn and watch you build them. Like, we moved to this town, we live up in Westchester now, in Briarcliff. We moved there 2 years ago when Jesse was born, so I'm meeting people too. And anytime people meet me, they're meeting Jesse. And so I don't know exactly how that will manifest in his life, but I know that I have exposed him and modeled how you build a community and that you don't have to do life alone.
It's great. Love it.
So, I'm thinking about this community, and at myFace, we're building a community, but I struggle with one part of the aspect of the community. And I'll be honest with you, I just had a conversation with a friend of mine who's in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. And this is brutally honest. I can't believe I'm going to tell you this story, but here you go. Those that know me know I speak from my heart. So he and I used to bicycle ride all the time together. We did 100-mile bike rides would be our normal, and we were really close. And the day after Thanksgiving was a big day on the road. And for some reason, I opted not to go on the road. I opted to stay with my kids. And he went out, he was on Upper Saddle River. A woman pulled out on her cell phone, took him out from behind, and now he's paralyzed. And do you know I never called him? And I talked to him the other day, and I said, Ron, I haven't talked to you in so long. I am so ashamed. And he wanted to know why. And I said, I don't know why, but I think because I didn't know what to do. And he said, well, what did you need to do? I said, that's just it. I didn't know. I thought that my place on earth is to help others. So, but you don't need my help. And I thought that my place on earth should be your friend, and I really let you down. And he just said, I get it. It's okay. What do we do now? And I said, I don't know. So I'm huge on community. But I struggle with, and Naomi and the ambassadors know I struggle with the concept of, will they accept me for who I am? Or will they have a roadblock up because they're not sure who I am? So in your work, obviously, there's lots of people that would love to be sitting in my seat right now. And there's lots of people that would probably promise the world to you. How do you accept my story and what I've gone through personally to help me help myself. And there's another quick anecdote on this one, and some of you have heard this story before. I was in an ice cream parlor, and there was a grandmother in there with her 2 kids, and one of the children had a facial difference, and a pretty significant one. And Bill would be on the floor talking to him about his ice cream. Mm-hmm. Bill did not. Mm-hmm. And I got in the car, and I looked at my wife and said, who was I? Like, what happened to me? And she said, I don't know. You have to figure that out. Mm. So how can you help us, maybe as a group, a collective group, understand how can we break down barriers, and how are you breaking down barriers? You clearly broke them down in the arts. Clearly, how do you help us break down these barriers together? Because it's a community of everyone. I don't think it should be a community of disabled. It should be a community together. So what words of wisdom might both of you give me? Sorry, you might have to listen to their answer, because I'm taking this one.
Well, I love I don't knows. If you have an I don't know, there's a million opportunities. And the truth was, when I was, pursuing a professional career in musical theater, there wasn't anyone else who had done it. So I was making it up. And we grew up with this sort of motto that we don't want to be like anyone else. We want to be originals. Being different is cool. Even though in school, everyone is thinking, oh, if everybody has the same Lululemon shorts, then you're cool. And my dad was like, not only was he saying that's not true, but he was modeling it. Everything from, it was just wild, we'd show up to pick me up from school with 50 Cent, really loud. Really out of the box behavior that of course at the time was but now it's oh right, we don't want to be like everybody else. We want to be originals, because then in the I don't knows, you get to pave the way. And being a leader was really cool. And so I also think have found a lot of success in approaching challenges with creativity. So here's what I mean by that. I have performed all over the world, and as we all, or maybe some of us know or not, a lot of the world is not accessible.
New York City
is a mess, right? Everything from the subways to some of the curb cuts and, this street, the hotels, whatever. So a lot of times those challenges are met with, this is wrong, and here's the right way to fix it. Very black and white. But I've found that approach, people are not as receptive to. Because the truth is that, well, let's talk about accessibility. Accessibility costs money. And so immediately people are going to be like, we don't have the money, no. But so one of my favorite things is to bring creativity into it. And that means having conversations. And I was born with the gift of the gab. I love to chat. So, if somebody has an inaccessible building and I'm looking to come to their building, and I call and I say, hey, is your building accessible? They said, no. I said, okay, how can we solve this? What other options are there? Who do we know that could help us? When I was 7 years old, I was cast in a production of The Wiz. And the beginning of the show, there's a tornado, and then I was supposed to end up on stage. Problem was, there were 4 stairs to get onto the stage. So what did my parents say? My dad said, I'll be part of the tornado. And he carried me in my chair up onto the stage. And it's like, oh, that's so nice that he did that. He didn't see any other option. We're going to solve this. And it probably, and now as a parent, like it's a little bit easier when you're a parent because you're like, out of my way, that like mama lion, like daddy lion comes out, like don't stop my kid. But I've taken that as like, let's get creative. Let's solve this stuff together. And in that, I've been able to become the first person on Broadway, the first person to win a Tony Award, because I knew that it wasn't going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfectly accessible. It's not going to be perfectly worded all the time. But that's okay. Because I trust myself that I can have these conversations and be like, hey, like, I have this idea. I want to offer this option. When I've talked to my community, like, I think this would be great. Giving people options, ideas, answers. People want the answer, especially if it has to do with accommodations and accessibility. Hey, I noticed that this is not working out for you guys. What about trying this? So, I know I've gone on kind of tangents, but when you talk about the like I don't know, it's like I get excited because it's like, well, what's possible? Let's brainstorm. Let's talk about it. Oh, I want to connect these two people. Maybe more ideas will come from a one-on-one. Maybe it's a big group conversation where people are throwing out ideas.
Yeah.
Dad?
Yeah, I want to just slide out the door just a second and talk about high performance people, whether they be in the athletic community, whether they're in the medical community, whether they're in part of the Navy SEALs, but they're in high stakes environments that are really, really challenging. And what they do is they really, really get into not only physical, but psychological training so that they can function in that environment. So, as a leader, and you're the ultimate leader, like, what is a leader? Well, you're all leaders, because leaders do one thing: they make others better. That's their job. They make the environment better. I don't care where you are, whether you're at a dinner table, whether you're part of a corporation, part of a team, you make the situation better. But I do know that caregiving and nurturing is very taxing. There's an emotional part of it that's very, very touching and difficult, and it can drain you. So making sure that you prioritize taking care of yourself. The 40-year study on leadership, James Kusu's Barry Posner, the Leadership Challenge, the number one attribute of great leaders, they model the way. They model the way of enthusiasm, excitement, joy for the day. They modeled the way. I mean, the greatest gift that ever could happen was to have been with Jake and Allie and have no choice. It was like burn the boats. I had a smile on my face 24/7. I had a smile on my face lifting up the wheelchair, going up the banks of LBI. I had a smile on my face taking Jake and helping him somehow put his jacket on. All of those things were done as a leader, with a smile of optimism and gratitude. And that's what I did. And you could say, boy, that must have been exhausting. Well, it was hard in the beginning. But then guess what happens if you act as if you're the most grateful person in the world enough? You become it. Your self-care, and of course I'm speaking to everyone, I think is crucial, and Allie's taught me a lot about this as well. Boundaries are crucial to create. And you love, you'll give, you'll do anything. However, you've got to make time for yourself. And there are just so many modalities that are so effective, that we're now exposed to in so many different ways. We're part of a yoga community here, which again, I teach yoga on the beach all summer. And the first thing is said is, this is for everyone, whether you're in a wheelchair, whether you can't see, can see, whether you have one arm or two. This yoga is about breathing and being present and moving your body different than everyone else and being part of that community. Breath work, crucial. Visualization, all these kind of, wow, really? Yeah. Positive self-talk, journaling, taking time for your gratitude journal daily, optimism training. This is what the high-level performers are doing. Well, you're it. Tell me who is in a more challenging position than the parents of children with challenges. I mean, you're the ultimate. I'm really enamored by the Yankees, but are you kidding? You're Yankees times 100, right? I mean, your job.
And can I piggyback on something you're saying? So having a disability and being paralyzed, the concept of wellness is loaded for me. I don't fall into the stereotypical, what I believe we are fed is what wellness is in this country. I don't look like the yoga girls. I can't get on the mat by myself and get back up in my chair. How is this stuff approachable? How do I translate it? How do I make it feel like I'm not looking to go to the gym and feel different again? So I'm like, what does that look like for people with disabilities? And in so many ways, it's even more important for us. Like, I live sitting. I need to move my body. What does that look like? Who does that look like? Because the reality is, I need help in those areas. But I also want to feel like a cool gym girl. Like, I'm going to say it. Like, I want to wear Lululemon, and I want to do that kind of stuff. But I don't fit in it. So what do I do? And so when I had Jesse 2 years ago, I started getting up earlier because he got up at 4:30 for a year and a half, because why not? And so we were doing 4:30, and then he started to sleep in. And about a month ago, I was starting to feel, well, I just turned 38, and I was like, oh, you don't get your house for free anymore. Got it. Okay, great. I'm not waking up without bags. Great, under my eyes. So I had this amazing conversation with my dad where I was like, how do I do it? How do I do this as a parent? And we came to, and this is why he's really good at what he does now. He didn't tell me what to do. I came to it. I've started to get up before everyone. And this is one of my dad's like special ingredients that he didn't share with anybody. But like 5 a.m. awake. And like, I'm a theater girl. Like, I stay up late. I don't get up early. Like, that's not in my, but I was like, I have to do this, or else I don't have any of my own time. And getting out the door, getting dressed and out the door was the first moment in years that I felt like, oh, this is my wellness. Mm-hmm. The showing up at the gym, even without a trainer, and going and looking in the mirror and like identifying with my body. I can't feel 85% of my body all day long. I need to connect with my body. That looks so different for me than it does for him. Moving, sitting on, sitting outside of my chair, that's wellness. Wellness is not what our society is throwing at us. It is your special sauce that you have to create based on feel. And it's almost impossible if you don't give yourself the time. So I don't know if this like resonates with everybody, anyone in here, but like I love these ideas and I do a lot of those things, but I don't have the privilege of showing up and getting on the treadmill or showing up to a yoga class and like it being a no-brainer. Not that it's a no-brainer.
By the way, Allie's gym is called Life. I mean, taking through. I always think it's like when you watch Allie get in the car with Jesse. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
One Jesse, get up, Jesse. I mean,
Jesse's in first, and then I transfer into the car, and then I take the wheels off my wheelchair.
fast with transferring the car, pushing from that chair up into this chair.
Yeah.
That's equivalent to 6 dips
Yeah, I mean, physically, all day.
all day.
But that's not my wellness stuff. That's my activities of daily living, like what I need in order to be independent. That doesn't necessarily make me feel like I'm connected to the ground and to like my purpose and my life and my breath at all. That's like, that's survival. So I'm still figuring it out. Like I'm still in the I don't know exactly how this looks like for me, but I know if I want to do what I want to do in the world, I have to have that part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or else like I'm like trying to take on my purpose on an empty tank of gas.
So I'd like to see, does anyone have a question you'd like to pose to Jim or Allie at this time? There has to be one question. Yeah, please.
I love listening to you.
You're gonna get more now.
No. No, I love the fact that you talk about the community and acceptance, but in reality, there are a lot of people who don't accept. So how do you deal with that? Mm-hmm. And does it, hopefully it doesn't affect, your life or whatever, but this is reality because I've been through it.
Right.
There are people that don't accept, and they could be very cruel and mean.
Yeah, and that's a really, really important point, and also a very simple answer. Those people are not for me.
Yep.
They do not get me. They're on their own journey, and whatever, early on in therapy, like you learn, like anybody who's like, cruel, mean, it's all fear. That's just fear. Somebody's very afraid. You see it with stray dogs. Yeah. They're just afraid. So it's okay. They're just not meant for me. And I deal with that a lot in my work, like in the industry, as far as like getting roles and like, oh no, that's not you, don't worry.
Oh, that's okay.
He's panicking. And that is okay. And also I like learned it in the dating world. Like not everyone is for everyone. And the great news is there are so many people out there. So if somebody is not accepting, giving you green lights, positive. I mean, Dad did this when we were growing up. Like we always had tons of babysitters, nurses, people around. If somebody wasn't bringing like positive energy, they were cut from the team. You're out. Like no questions. It was just like, this isn't the right fit.
And I do know that all the anger and resentment that I have doesn't serve me at all. I have way too much to do. And when you're in the fourth quarter times 10, 73, it's like the last thing I want to be is angry. And the only thing I have is an understanding that what you have is this high level, like A++ level of empathy. You've developed empathy for others. You have the highest level. It's the greatest, most important trait that anyone can develop as a leader. You have empathy for others. So the way I look at people who, don't treat you well is unfortunately they haven't been given the gift that you've been given to understand. Because if you were at our level, you would never make fun of, put down, judge, or rank order people based on, looks or height or like they just don't know. And, as Brene Brown said so beautifully, I just say everybody's probably doing their best. And I feel sorry for you, and namaste. And, one day I hope you don't have to learn the hard way, but, you're not gonna steal my peace, right? Like, I have too many things to do. So the anger, which Allie is just models beautifully, you just don't go down that path.
No, because that takes a lot of energy. I need that energy. But I want to just mention one more thing about kids, because that's complicated. So I was hurt when I was 2, so I went through all my school, preschool, elementary, middle, and high school with kids. And I was never bullied, but I was not included a lot. And so, people were not mean to my face, but, they would have birthday parties that were not, the parents didn't think I could do it, so I just wasn't invited. And, like you were saying, that kind of stuff lives in you. When I have a party, I'm like, everyone's invited! Bring your neighbors, bring your kids! I just want everyone to feel like they're invited in our space. Our house is for everyone. But with kids, we all know that it starts with the parents. So whatever's going on. But I don't think I'm making this up. When I had issues with kids, I think we invited them over, right?
Yeah.
And we had
reverse psychology.
Yeah, we had an extra wheelchair.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, oh, you want to play in it? And we would play together at home, at the house. We always built these obstacle courses out in our driveway. It's turn around 4 times, pick up the chalk, whatever, it doesn't matter. But all of a sudden you brought this person into your world and you no longer were the scapegoat, but that was someone, that person was real now.
Yeah.
And that person had a home and a family and a room and toys and another wheelchair that they got to try. And all of a sudden you're in school and they're like, can I help you? Can I? And it's you bring empathy to the kid.
We also brought some new teammates in. We brought teammates to come. 3 dogs, 2 ducks, a bird, any kind of live animal that could come was in the house. And every live animal was going, I like you. I don't care what you want. I love you. And that energy and of optimism and love. And we laughed a lot because no one could take that. No one could beat that. You could run faster, you could skip longer, but you couldn't laugh or smile as long as we could. That was in our control. So, and I know that's always doesn't work, but you know it. I mean, you can create joy in any situation. And as the great Viktor Frankl, I'm quoting him too much, but a man's search for meaning said, everything can be taken. Everything. And it was from him. Except one thing. And that is a person's ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. It's still your choice. No, it's not. This is too hard. No, it is. And if one person, it's Allie's greatest line, she rolls out on the stage to get the Tony Award. She says, basically, this award's not for me. This isn't for me. This award's for every kid who's watching here tonight. Every kid with a disability challenge or a limitation. Basically, every kid who's been waiting to see themselves represented in this arena. You are. And all we need is one person. We need one Logan, for every other person in his situation. I can do it now, So it's just it's like the greatest dad life you could ever dream of. right? And I dreamed of it being another way, right? But as the great Joseph Campbell said, you've got to give up the life you planned and be open to this incredible life that you've been assigned and offered for you. It's just a great one.
You know, Allie, I'm thinking as you were talking about school, tell me about gym. What was it like for you to go into gym? I mean, we all experience anxiety walking into a room that's unknown, people we don't know, perhaps a little more anxiety for others than others. What was that like for you?
Well, one of the greatest coincidences is that my dad was a gym teacher at the middle school. So
Wellness instructor.
that's right. Yeah, right. Physical education and health. No, but so like every weekend was gym. So like we would, on snow days, all the kids could go sledding. Jake and I couldn't sled. So Dad had the keys to the gym and the equipment closet. And we take everything out, you know, again, like breaking rules all the time. And we take all the stuff out and we play. So I wasn't afraid of gym, but it was the one place that I was assigned an aide. And I was aware of that. I was really aware of the fact that, like, everybody, but there was this moment of relief that I didn't have to come up with ideas by myself. That came later when I went to college and they wouldn't let me take dance class. And I was like, I can take dance class and you don't have to teach me anything. I'll translate all of it. And it worked. But I have to remember that the foundation of that was that when I went to gym, I had an aide and my dad knew all of the physical education teachers, so that helped. And so I think in elementary school, I was paired with Frankie, who was the trainer over at, great friend of my dad. So he'd come in and he would bust me. He would, come on, Stroker, let's go. You know, like he made it fun. He was really a nice person. I think the first thing that I needed to know was that I wasn't going to be made to feel like I wasn't able. And I'll never forget, then this made such an impact on me. So in first or second grade, in gym class, you learn to skip. And I was not gonna skip. But Frankie was like, or Mr. G was like, oh, no, Stroker, you're gonna skip. But we're doing it your way. And this is how you'll skip. You'll push and clap. Push and clap. And it's like so simple, but it was mine. And I had something to do when the kids were going around the gym. So again, this like creative piece of not, being real, that like there was some shame about the fact that I needed help, but then realizing that that could turn into something fun. And I think that was something that you guys, my mom and dad, micromanaged who Jake and I were going to be exposed to in those kinds of situations, in that they were like, who is the person? We want to meet with them. We want to tell them what's going on here. What's the situation? What's the picture? How do we approach things like this? Isn't that, what did you think about that?
We had the luxury, and not every family has this, of bringing people in our home. We had students in that school that I knew were special kids that saw something different than others, people that really had that heart of empathy and love and creativity, and we brought them in to be around us, and that helped out a lot. But it really is, as I age, it just gets down to like one thing, and it's Wayne Dyer, in a nutshell, isn't it? Like Wayne Dyer said it, like when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. And, it's all the way you see things, right? I see the most beautiful, handsome, incredible hero in the world right there. And I really do. And I see a hero. I don't see a regular kid. Who wants to be regular? I see someone who has been through Joseph Campbell's hero's journey and someone who has ended up like better than he ever could have been. Allie is always asked this question by the elementary school kids, and it really is her best brand answer, right? Because it's real. The poor elementary school kids, they're like, how do you get into a car? How do you take a shower? How do you do anything in a wheelchair? But then there's always the greatest question, and it is, of course, what? Don't you wish?
Don't you wish you could walk? And it makes sense, right? Like they live, their world is everybody's walking. Why would you not? And I always say without hesitation, no. Like I don't want to walk. To me, like my chair is the ultimate gift and vehicle for my life. I see things differently. I do things differently. I am different than who I would have been. And after I got hurt, so like 1989, the doctors told my parents there would be a cure for spinal cord injuries by the time I was 18. And they were like, Allie will get better. And I reached a moment like in my 20s where I was like, I am better. Like I'm way better. I am so much better than like who Allie would have been without this, like what I've had to go through. And so many of us feel this way, like our challenges turn into the most amazing gifts. But it's not the hardest thing. And like I've gone into rehab centers and talked like this, and like, you know, people are like, who are you to say that? You know, like it takes time, and it takes community, and it takes a real discipline to not allow yourself to go too far down what we know is the dark side of all of this, because that is real.
Yeah.
That is so real for everyone, for us.
Well, it turns into that, that space, right? That space we all heard about, like that space between what's happened and how we respond. And this is, Allie's superpower is not singing. It really is. Her superpower is patience, the space. She doesn't let her emotions take over. She breathes without maybe even knowing it, creates that space, and then makes her decision. You know, I'm on planes with her, which is so fun to watch. And you've all been on airplanes before. And the most impulsive time of the plane is when the plane finally comes and lands. And then finally that first person jumps out of their seat, right? And everyone's jumping. They want to get out. And Allie is there singing, because she'll be the last one out all the time. But not the last one out, like, God damn it, how long is this going to, like, singing, talking to others. Her patience level when others would impulsively react, that's the gift that I think is your superpower, don't you think?
Yeah, and it's come out of, it's not something that I chose. Or maybe it is, I guess, if we look at it that way. But to me, it was essential. Because I didn't want to live upset. I didn't want to be mad at everyone. I wanted to feel good. So like I'm always humming, and I've learned all this stuff now, but like humming is a way to like calm your nervous system. Like I have PTSD. I have trauma stuff from what I've been through. But that's mine. And the music and like singing and performing has been not only my career, but my therapy. Like, not only do those of us who live with disabilities need that kind of support, we deserve it. Like, every day, there is stuff that happens that is hard and painful. And we need to know that we have those tools to be able to take it on.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to finish.
Oh, good.
And then you can finish, and then I know we're finished. So we travel around with stories, right? And all of us have a story, right? We all have a story. In fact, we're amazing storytellers who tell ourselves stories all the time about our life, right? But I love this story. Maria and I just use it in the Hudson County Correctional Facility. But it's a story that just applies to everyone. And of course, it's not that long. It's a story about the farmer. You probably have heard it. You know, he's got this prized white horse, this beautiful white horse. One night, there's this giant storm in the middle of the night. And of course, the farmer's concerned about his horse, and rightly so, because he wakes up the next day and the corral door had blown open and the white horse ran away. Well, all the townspeople hear the news. They race over and say, "Oh, we're so sorry about your bad luck." And the farmer pauses, gains space, and says, "Bad luck, good luck. We'll see." And they walk away confused. It's obviously bad luck. 3 days later, there's another storm in the middle of the night. The farmer wakes up, the corral door is blown back open. The white horse is run back in with 4 wild horses trailing it. He's got 5 horses now. The townspeople hear the news, come racing over and say, "We're so happy about your good luck." But the farmer pauses and says, "Good luck or bad luck? We'll see." 3 days later, the farmer's son is out trying to train one of the wild horses, and he's bucked off and breaks both of his legs. Townspeople hear the news. "So sorry about your bad luck. Farmer, bad luck, good luck. We'll see." And then the final end of the story, 1 week later, the country goes to war, and they send over all the militia to gather up all the able-bodied young men, and they find the boy with 2 broken legs. They can't take him to war. The townspeople hear the news and say, "We're so happy about your good luck." The farmer says, "Good luck, bad luck, we shall see." 2 children in a car accident. Terrible, tragic. The little girl, 2 years old, she's paralyzed from the chest down. The boy, he ends up with cognitive damage, a traumatic head injury, and the use of 1 arm for the rest of his life. All the townspeople raced over and said, "We're so sorry about your bad luck." Somehow inside, the farmer, or the old coach, knew that maybe it wasn't bad luck, but maybe one day the worst thing that could ever happen could turn into the best thing that could ever happen. And sometimes the hardest things we're faced with are the greatest opportunities we'll ever be given. So, you know, it's all just verbiage. This is all really just, excuse my language, bullshit.
I don't think you could use that language here.
Well, and I do feel awkward because I did go, my undergraduate was at Yale, the School for Locksmiths. Just realizing.
Dad went to 5 colleges.
It's like that. But it really is, you know, our just incredible privilege. And, you know, Bill is the epitome of, you know, that all the talk means nothing, right? Like it's yak, 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 K minus A equals 0. All the knowledge in the world minus action, it didn't go anything. So it's all what you actually do and try and fail at and give it a shot. You know, that's the end. And we're just so enamored by all of you and just so privileged and grateful to be in your presence. It's, you're just amazing people, and we're just so happy to be now part of your family.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. And, you know, again, like we told our story today, but I just want to say, like, you all have this. You all have a story. And I have found so much peace in being able to speak my own story. It's made me not feel like a victim. It's made me feel like this is my life. And this is the way I choose to tell it. And so I just want to offer that to all of you.
Thank you, Allie. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, guys.
I didn't know if we were opening it up to questions or not.
Yeah, please.
I just had a question for you. Like growing up, it seems like you've had a very good support system. For those who are going through their own trials and tribulations, and let's say did not have that same support system growing up, what would you say to them?
Well, I have a lot of friends who don't have that kind of support system, that kind of family or friends. So my advice is to turn to what you love. I think sometimes, and that's what changed for me. It's like when I found musical theater, like whatever that is, if it's, you know, art, sports, reading, science, like I found it to be very helpful to have a thing where I could express myself and really dive into that and allow that to become a part of my identity versus just being the little girl in a wheelchair. So like having those hobbies and having those outlets was so important for me, being busy.
And you met extended family in that genre, right?
Absolutely. My husband is a theater person. You know, like that was where I found my people and my friends. So a lot of times we look to like our support system being the people that we're related to or our teachers sometimes. But I have always found people who wanted to support me who also had common interests and passions. So explore that more, find what that is, and then find those people. Because you're going to connect with them on a different level, and it won't be about your challenges and your limitations, and then allow yourself to open up to those kinds of people about what you're going through.
I wanted to come back to your analogy of the belts because I thought that was really interesting. So I do a lot of work with military veterans and with first responders, and I found that I think many of them, not all, but many of them, the way they achieve that black belt status of embracing what happens to them is using humor. And, even dark humor, sometimes particularly combat veterans find that sense of community and probably using humor that might be offensive to others. We might not think of it as politically correct. And that's on my mind because even within the disability community, there are comedians who use that humor, right? But some may be offended by it. So I just wondered if you had a take or a thought on using humor as ownership. I'm also Jewish, so when you talk about Viktor Frankl within the Holocaust survivor community, right there, I've seen some use that kind of macabre, dark humor, but it helps you gain ownership and overcome.
Yeah, I mean, something happens to us chemically when we laugh. Like the chemicals change in our brain. And also what I've learned in the entertainment business, there's an audience for every kind of humor, right? Like as specific as it may be, there's probably somebody out there who is going to find that funny. So, I mean, I think humor is the best medicine in the world for people who have been through a lot. It literally changes our chemicals in our body. I mean, we all know after like a really good laugh, we're like, oh, I needed that, and so I think it's an amazing vehicle to get people to open up, to be able to have humor about, we laugh all the time about the kind of stuff that we used to do as kids. It was so crazy. It was so nuts, but we did it. And we're always laughing. I think it's essential, in fact.
Yeah, such a great point. It can be a heavy world. It's heavy anyway, but when you're in an environment of family with challenges, there's struggle. And the Arthur Brooks, who writes for The Atlantic, very good, wrote the book, Build the Life You Want with Oprah, The Art of Science, of happiness. It says there's 3 macronutrients of happiness, and one is doing things you enjoy. Like just goofy, small talk, fool around, giggle, laugh, have those with other people. Then be in some kind of struggle. Be in something that challenges you, that gives you a state of fulfillment. And then obviously the third macronutrient is to be doing something bigger than yourself. So like when you blend all those in, but that one piece, and I think you're exactly right, it can be hard to do that when you're in that struggle. But as you say, the Navy SEALs, I've had the luxury of working with them quite a bit. I mean, they blend in that a lot, as you know. So what a great point to bring up. Excellent. Yeah.
Anyone else? Please.
What's next? Ooh,
Oh, you took my question.
that's always fun.
You can have it.
Yeah. Well, I'm in a really interesting spot right now because I thought I was going to be doing something this summer, and it didn't work out. So now anything is possible. But more specifically,
That for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was a challenge for me because it was a project that I had been attached to for 5 years, and I thought that it was going to be happening this summer, and then it changed. So, letting go of what I thought to make room for what is possible. And so I am going to Los Angeles in a few weeks to perform and speak at something called the Rolettes Experience. And it's a conference for women in wheelchairs, and 300 women from all over the world come to this event. So I'm going to speak and sing at that, and then we're going to the beach tomorrow. We're going to LBI tomorrow with Jessie, which is a challenge. You know, like being a mom at the beach, like, hey, okay, here we go. But like, it's like we get creative, we make it work. He loves to get on my beach chair. We don't go in the ocean without someone, like all the things that take up space here. And I'm going to Boston next week to speak. I do a lot of speaking and singing sort of travel things right now, which I love because as a mom, I've been on the other side of it for a long time of auditioning and waiting for parts. And to get to develop these stories and include people with all different differences and disabilities in those stories without the story having to be about that. Yes. Yeah. It's like so important to me because that's how I see my life. Like, I don't lead in a room with like why I'm in a wheelchair. Like, I am leading in a room with like, oh my gosh, like I have a 2.5-year-old. And then I also am in a chair. And I think that makes characters so much richer.
Yeah.
And like really, the more specific you can get, I think the more people are drawn to it. So to get to be in that position is really exciting now for me. And working with really cool people that also are interested in that, not just in like, what's going to sell, but like, how do we make these people real so that when people are watching at home, they can see themselves?
Yeah. I think Naomi had a question.
Yes. Well, I just wanted to say thank you for your time. And I know I can speak for a lot of us. We connect over so much with what you said with myFace. Just being able to be in a room with each other. And we don't have to talk about our differences. We don't have to talk about our syndromes. We don't have to talk anything medical. It's just being in a room with each other and being silly and wearing nice outfits and just, enjoying each other. And that's one of the ways I'm like, guys, come to our events, hang out with me. Yeah. This is what has helped me so much in my life.
Yeah.
Like, I had a class, I also had like a lot of autoimmune issues. Mm-hmm. So when I was like in middle school, I also had like a lot of mobility issues. Mm-hmm. So I resonate so much. And thankfully I'm at a different place in my life and I'm learning to navigate that. But, myFace is what helped me find my people and find my confidence and make that community.
Amazing.
And I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Beautiful. So articulate. Amazing.
Yeah.
Ali, would you tell us a little bit about your books that you've written in particular? Maybe you could take us down.
Yes, I would love to. So I have a children's book, like 0 to 5, called Ali and the Sea Stars, based on how I was introduced to musical theater on the Jersey Shore. And then I have middle grade books, 2 of them. One is called The Chance to Fly, and this is the sequel, Cut Loose. And it's about a girl named Nat, short for Natalie. Who is your name, Natalie? I love She's in a chair, and she's in musical theater, and she has a boyfriend, and she has this group of friends through her theater group. And I wrote these books with a girl named Stacy Davidowitz, who I met because she wanted to interview me about a character that she was writing who was in a wheelchair, who did theater. And I was like, how about we write books about that person? And she was like, you would do that? And I was like, yeah, let's do that. And I did not know how to write books. But it was so cool to all of a sudden one thing turned into this really amazing opportunity. And so Cut Goose specifically, that's Nat, that's her friend Hudson. Their middle schools are competing in New Jersey, based in Jersey, obviously, to get the opportunity to perform on a Broadway stage. And voters come. It's a little bit like the Jimmy Awards, if you've heard of them. It's like the middle school and high schools compete. Anyway, Nat and her friends are competing, and her school gets chosen. And I'm not going to tell you what happens next, but these books have been so amazing for me because I really wanted to include moments that I've never seen or heard or felt like they were never articulated, that I went through as a kid, that were hard or I felt so alone in. And that's what I was able to do with these books. And therefore, anybody who feels different, who needs to know that somebody else also feels really different, I also voice these. So this summer, if you are wanting to listen to looking for some summer reading.
And the voice in Audible is great.
Yeah. But yeah, these books have been so important to me and have really helped me so much heal middle school Allie in so many ways, because middle school was so hard. And if you're into theater or not into theater, there's a lot of Easter eggs in this book about theater.
Would you have an anthem song?
Oh yeah.
For me, dreaming of getting to know you one day was a childhood dream.
Oh.
And being here with you right now is, it's impacting me in a really emotional way.
Thank you so much.
For all of you, thank you for giving me this opportunity to lead the ship, and to the staff of myFace, who are incredible individuals who devote their entire life to what we do. The consultants we have with Mia and with Suzanne and Chris, you make what we do incredibly impactful for others, but if you want to know the truth, impactful to me. So thank you all. We're going to get a real treat now. And thank you all for coming. There'll be an entire series of these starting in September. Be on the lookout for that. Races for Faces is in September. Lots of really great stuff going on at myFace. If you're not on our newsletter, then please harass Karen to have your name on the newsletter. And I want to recognize Barbara Zuckerberg, who's here today, a board member. And Barbara, I know you have a lot going on, but when a board member shows up to a lunch, it shows huge commitment. And Barbara, you exemplify what we do at myFace. So thank you for being here. Thank you for always leading us on the board. And most of all, maybe thank you for Dina.
Okay, so I want to sing my favorite song. This is a song that I've sang since college, and I'm going to sing it a cappella. It's from The Wiz, one of my first shows, and the song is called Be a Lion. It's the song that I listen to or I sing when I need to be a lion out in the world that we live in. Okay. There is a place we'll go where there is mostly quiet, flowers and butterflies inside it. And from a velvet sky, a summer storm, I can feel the coolness in the air, but I'm still warm. And then a mighty roar will start the sky to crying, but not even lightning will be frightening my lion. And with no fear inside, no need to run, no need to hide. You're standing strong and tall. You're the bravest of them all. If on courage you must call, then just keep on trying and trying and trying. You're lying in your own way. Be a liar.